Did you know that the quality of your relationships has a direct impact on the quality of your work and the quality of your life? In this modern day of rush, lots of technology, the phones, and over-reliance on phones means that the relationships we have with other people is suffering. Look around you. If you're a school teacher, for example, what kind of quality of relationships do you have with your colleagues? Is there toxicity, toxic relationships between yourself? A number of years ago, this particular book caught my eye. It's called Connected. I'll put the details below. And one of the things that stood out for me massively was the kind of networks of relationships we had. So just imagine a spider's web. At the very epicenter of the spider's web, there are connections in every different direction. And at the very periphery or the edges of the spider's web, the connections are far fewer. Translate that into human relationships. If you're somebody on the periphery of any network with very few relationships, then you are more likely to be unhealthy, unfit, sad, depressed, and feeling low self-esteem. Whereas on the other hand, if you are in the epicenter or somewhere near the center with multiple connections, then you are more likely to be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled in your job, in your life. It doesn't mean, by the way, you have to be an extrovert or an introvert, because an introvert can also have a number of meaningful relationships. In this episode of the Harun Rabbani podcast, I'm going to delve deep into the schooling system. So if you're a teacher, then this is absolutely perfect for you. However, if you're working in an environment where there are more than one or two people at your workplace, or customers, clients, suppliers, then this is also very relevant for you. You see, if you can master this element, then you have set yourself a massive foundation to be a much more impactful leader. So let's talk about a network. What is a network? And more importantly, what is a trusted network? A network is your connections. It is the connections you make on a day-to-day basis or year-to-year basis for your work and beyond work. In the context of this episode, we're going to focus on work. So if you are a teacher, it's your peers that you work with in your department, people above you, people below you, in the hierarchy of your workplace, and that's your network. But just because you have, say for example, business cards or somebody's phone number doesn't mean you have a very good network. You see, having lots of phone numbers and emails doesn't make for a meaningful relationship. Without a strong network, you are going to be very isolated, with less support, not much accountability, and more prone to stress, anxiety, and depression. On the other hand, if you're able to nurture those relationships, then you are going to be more happy, more fulfilled, and more effective at your job. Having a strong network means you're also going to be impactful in the work that you do on yourself. Very importantly, the ripple effect is going to affect the students that you're working with, as well as your school culture. Over the last 22 years, I have visited hundreds of schools, and I have to say, some of them blow my mind in terms of the quality of connections they have between the teams. There's strong camaraderie and there's great communications. On the other hand, there are far more schools which don't have those connections, who don't have the trust between staff. And so communication breaks down. There's less engagement between the staff, and it's like pulling teeth trying to get colleagues to do something for you or support you. Now, you might think, how the heck do I know as an outsider? We get to know because the first thing that goes when you have poor relationships between yourself is your communication, and that manifests not just internally, but externally. As an example, the most successful schools with the greatest results tend to be the best communicators. The worst schools, the ones that are struggling the most, are terrible to get hold of, and that happens internally as well as externally. People don't change their stripes just because they're working with outsiders. So look at the signs and symptoms for if you've got that kind of school. Are you the kind of person who wants to engage fully with your students, fully with outside community, parents, businesses? Look at your communication. That is a telltale sign. Another way of seeing that you've got a trusted advisor network or a trusted network in your school environment, imagine you have a safety net. When I think of Cirque du Soleil, I think of those amazing trapeze artists and all the acrobatics they do, but they all generally have a safety net. So having a really strong, meaningful network means that you've got that safety net, that support, that accountability. And you know what? We all have bad hair days. Sometimes we have terrible hair days. And so having a wonderful network like that is worth its weight in gold when you need it. What does this network look like if you are a teacher? Imagine there are 8 core relationships to look at. Number 1, very importantly, accountability. Somebody who can gently remind you and ask you, are you doing what you said you're going to do when you're doing it? Somebody who can keep you on track, somebody who can keep you focused. The second type of relationship is a mentoring relationship where you are the mentee, and the mentor is somebody who's far more experienced than you. They've been where you've been and they can guide you and show you the different milestones and be there to answer your most difficult questions. The third type of person you want in your network is a constructive critic, not somebody who just gives random feedback, but somebody who can look at different aspects of your work or your behavior or your mindset, and they can ask you hard questions and they can say, hey, is this working? What can we do better? Or what can you do better? So a constructive critic isn't like somebody who's going to slam dunk you and beat you up. It's somebody who is supportive by asking the questions that nobody else dares to ask. Then you've got those who are resource geniuses. These are people who you can turn to as a teacher, as a leader and say, hey, I need this. Do you have access to this? Now, they may actually give you direct access to the information or the data or the connections you need, or they may know somebody else who can do that for you. Here's the thing. These people are the go-to people. So you want definitely one of those people in your network. The fifth type of person is a cheerleader. So say you've set yourself a 30-day goal or a 90-day goal, or maybe a goal for the academic year or even the whole entire career. You want a cheerleader, somebody who believes in you, who trusts in you, who eggs you on, somebody who really is supporting you unconditionally, provided you don't break the rules, of course. So they're there at your side. You definitely want one of those people in your life, if not more. Then there's the kind of person who inspires you. This is usually somebody who could be a family member, could be within your team, could be within your school, could be at another school. For example, the great speaker from TEDx, Ken Robinson, is a major inspiration for me. He's passed away, but you want someone who's alive, preferably within your vicinity. So this could be within your school or within your industry. You want one of those at least, if not more. And finally, the emotional support person. This is the kind of person who's like a counselor, maybe a therapist. They don't have to be those professionally, but they are excellent listeners. They are there to hear you speak, so you can actually talk to them unconditionally and in confidence, knowing that they're not going to judge you, they're not going to criticize you. They are there just to listen. As somebody who's run a clinic for many years, which I no longer do, here's what I found, that at least 30% of healing comes from just listening to the person speak, meaning the healing is for not the person listening, but the person speaking. So you definitely, as a teacher in the United Kingdom, want one of those in your life. So those are the 8 different types of people that you want in your network. So who are the kind of people you should pick for your network? Well, first of all, you want a diverse range of people. You don't want yes people all the time. You want people with different sets of skills, different perspectives, different cultural backgrounds, because your students are going to be from different backgrounds. You want people from a different age range, so younger teachers as well as older teachers within your own network. The kind of people you can choose from are people who are your colleagues, mentors, people who are senior to you, people who are senior staff members, and teachers from outside of your school in other local schools or maybe somewhere far away. The kind of characteristic traits you want to be looking for is, number 1, trustworthy. Are they trustable? Are they dependable? People who can keep your confidence. People who are genuinely interested and very dependable. Where can you find these different people to join your network? First of all, obviously within your schools. Secondly, perhaps schools in your local vicinity or maybe somewhere else in the country. The next thing is part of different professional networks and online forums that you belong to. For example, one of the forums that I belong to is the Careers Network on Facebook. And then there's other organizations like Stretch Academy that I've co-founded with David Heiner, and this is a CPD based training business which is there free for teachers. If you want to learn more about Stretch Academy and David Heiner, check the descriptions or the show notes and the links, and you will be able to go and access that straight away if you want. And then a very good place to look for is outside of the education sector. So perhaps people in business, because they make very good mentors, people in the public sector or the voluntary sector or the charity sector. The world is waiting for you to go and ask. And truly, a very good sign that somebody is going to be a good mentor or a good person to have in your network is they are willing to help, because you'll be surprised how many people will support you only if you ask. So when's a good time for you to start building your network? Now? Anytime? Seriously, do it now. If you want a copy of my PDF for mapping out your network, then just email me at the usual place, harun@harunrabbani.com, and request for the networking map, and I will send it to you. One thing I don't want you to do is try to build your network all at once. Do it incrementally, because first of all, you've got to ask that person, let them know who you are and what you're looking for in terms of the network and how they can help you. So don't try to build it all in one go. It takes time. The other thing is, don't put all those roles onto one person's head. That is asking too much of one single person. This is why I strongly recommend you have anything between 6 and 10 people who are part of your network at least. One of the things I can't emphasize enough, of course, within this kind of network, there's no money exchange, but there is value exchange. So the people who are supporting you, how are you supporting them? Not with money, but how are you supporting them? Are you making time available for them? And you might think, hold on, I've got so little time as it is as a teacher. How the heck am I going to be there for them and then be for me? Well, guess what happens? As you build a trusted advisor network, you start becoming a lot more smarter with your time and a lot more effective. You see, the only limited resource you have is your time. And if you've got this advisory network around yourself, you will find that your time becomes even more valuable. But in the time that you are with people, you get a heck of a lot more out of it. So let's start building the network. Here are the steps to building your network. First of all, identify the specific roles you would like to fit. Communicate with the people, email them, pick up the phone, talk to them in person preferably. Find a way of reciprocating the help that they're giving, the value that they're giving. And they might just want advice. They might just want a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, find a way to support them as well. Don't be a taker, be a giver. You'll find that they'll end up giving you anyway. Next, be consistent. Be consistent with your communications with your people within your network. So minimum at least once a month, speak to them, even for 5 minutes. Once a month. You'll find that you'll nurture the relationship in those 5 minutes of monthly conversations, but the real value comes in when you really need them. Then you've got someone to turn to, and there's no way that somebody will give huge amounts of time and support to you out of the blue if you've not already built the relationship in advance. And then finally, reflect on your network from time to time. So every 2 to 3 months, look at your network. Is it big enough? Is it too big? Is it manageable? Are the individual people the right people? Because sometimes you'll find that somebody may not be always there for you. Maybe you want to replace them with somebody else. Doesn't mean you have to cut that relationship off, but it might mean you find somebody else and you spend more time with that new somebody. So make sure you're adaptable and flexible. This is not fixed in stone. Relationships come and go. Just make sure you nurture the relationship with good quality people in your network. Okay, to conclude, here's what I'd like you to perhaps comment in here or maybe make notes of. Who is in your network already? Make a list of people that you do have those meaningful relationships with already. Secondly, comment below, if you can, who is one person that you definitely want to approach, but you haven't as yet? And when are you going to approach them? Now is a good time perhaps. And then how about that one person that you really, really want to approach, and it might be somebody outside of your school or even your city, and you're a bit scared to approach them, but you're going to do it anyway. Here's an example. My friend David, he was teaching massive goals and about getting mentors to students once upon a time, a number of years ago. One very, very shy student wanted to get into politics. Go figure, right? Anyway, she wanted a mentor at the top of the game. She wanted a mentoring session. And you know who she contacted? Barack Obama. As a result, she had a one-to-one mentoring session with Barack Obama. How amazing is that? And that was a 15-year-old, very shy student. So who's the person you're afraid to ask, but you're going to ask anyway? And finally, I'd love for you to share your success directly with me or here on my channel. Don't believe a word that I said throughout this session. What I'd like for you to do is prove me wrong. Build those relationships and then see if I'm wrong or not. And if I'm wrong, come back to me. Give me the feedback. See you next time.